Miriam Cates.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and I rise to speak in support of the principle of Amendments 131 to 134, which seek to strengthen the illegal migration bill by preventing spurious claims, whatever they may be, from being used to resist the removal of those arriving in Britain illegally. Now, these amendments aim to close any potential loopholes in the bill that would limit its effectiveness. Now, I've listened carefully to many thoughtful and technically excellent speeches from honourable friends and honourable members across the House, for whom I have the greatest respect. And of course, I cannot match their legal expertise and detailed understanding of the legal complexities of this bill. But I do want to argue for the principle of strengthening the bill, which I think the government has accepted, to make sure that it is effective. And of course, it's essential that the bill is effective, because more than 40,000 people arriving illegally on small boats in a year is a serious safety issue. It's a national security issue. It's an economic issue, with £6 million a day being spent on hotels to house migrants. It's a crime issue, with many illegal immigrants engaging in illegal activity or being drawn into slavery and exploitation. And it's also a sovereignty issue. And many ask, who is really in control of British borders, our elected parliaments or foreign courts? Now, if this bill does not work, if it does not result in the swift deportation of those who arrive here illegally, then it will not have a deterrent effect, and we will not stop the boats. The objective of these amendments is therefore to strengthen the legislation, to significantly reduce the likelihood of unjustified legal challenges using human rights legislation that was never meant to provide cover to international gangs. Now, I thank ministers for their consideration of the intention of these amendments. But some who oppose these amendments and this bill will cite compassion. And I wholeheartedly agree that those who are genuinely fleeing war and persecution deserve our compassion. And many should be, and are, offered a home here in the UK. But our compassion should be directed at those who are genuinely helpless and without agency. And of course that includes children. But not those who do have a choice about whether or not they leave their home country, or indeed those who choose to exploit others through international human trafficking. And in many ways, this debate epitomises the great arguments of our time, between those whose understanding of human rights is that anyone should more or less be able to do whatever and go wherever they want, and those who believe that strong boundaries and firm rules and proportionate restrictions are essential for strong families, communities and nations. It's an argument between those who think that as a wealthy country we somehow have unlimited resources and don't acknowledge that population growth over recent years has put serious limits and stretch on our capacity, for example, housing, and those who realise that even though we are in a wealthy and fortunate position, there are serious limits on our resources. Many of those who argue against strong borders and strong action against illegal immigration are not themselves personally affected by illegal immigration. Their wages are not threatened by the black market economy. They don't rely on essential local resources that are taken up with housing migrants. Their children are not sent to school with young men who are clearly not children. And their sense of agency and national identity does not rest on the integrity of our borders or the sovereignty of our parliament. For those whose lives and culture are not negatively impacted by thousands of people arriving here on small boats, it makes sense to argue for open borders in the name of compassion. But for many people, for many of my constituents, these are luxury beliefs. And the reality is that high and clearly visible levels of illegal immigration are a threat to ordinary people's safety, security, identity and sense of fair play. Believing in and upholding strong borders and firm boundaries is not uncompassionate or bigoted. It is a prerequisite for a fair, safe and cohesive nation. Ultimately, when boundaries are not upheld or laws are not enforced, it's always the vulnerable that suffer, as criminals exploit loopholes and drain much-needed finite resources away from those in genuine need. Now, I'm not going to give way because I've been given a 5-minute limit by the Chair. Now, we all want those genuine asylum seekers to be able to find safety here in the UK. And as the Minister has said, this country is surpassed by only 3 other nations in our acceptance of refugees from the UNHCR schemes. But the exploitation of our borders and laws by those who are not in genuine need, and worse, by abhorrent international people smuggling gangs, is neither fair nor compassionate, and it must end. So a strengthened illegal migration bill will deter people from making the treacherous journey in small boats and give us the resources and focus to go after those more safe legal routes that I think everybody in this House agrees should be there.
Senator Bagan.
Thank you, Mr.